opening racing action here at day number 2 of 3 of the 2023 Guntersville Lake Hydrofest. Got some thank yous to send out before we go back into racing activity. A very happy 50th birthday celebrating right here at the Guntersville Lake Hydrofest, Christina Brown. Happy birthday, 1/2 century old today right here at Lake Guntersville. I'd like to thank my friend from Madison, Indiana, Marlene Sargent. 2 years in a row, Brad, she's brought the deep fried Oreos down here. I got to get a cup of heats in me, Marlene, then I'll sample these deep fried Oreos.
I want to go back to that 50th birthday. Do you remember your 50th birthday?
Yeah, 9.5 years ago.
Yeah, that's like yesterday to me. Anyway, we are at 6. Now it looks like we're not moving. It says 6 minutes and 45 seconds. Oh. What are we doing?
I got it.
Our clock right now, Jeff Ayler, is stopped at 6 minutes and 45 seconds. I assume that will pick up and get started shortly. Our pro lights are in our next heat. It's the second heat sponsored by Citizens Bank and Trust. I would assume they'll start that countdown and resume it momentarily. Remember, our pro lights are on the other side of the causeway, so they let them come out at the 6 minute mark because they've got to go along the causeway and then come out from underneath the bridge over there.
Brad, our Heat 1B sponsor for Pro Light, Citizens Bank and Trust, celebrating 20 years of serving the local community. We are proud to partner with Citizens Bank for Hydrofest, and thank you once again to Citizens Bank and Trust being a part of the Guntersville Lake Hydrofest once again in 2023. Brad, we got a list of 5 on my sheet. I talked to Chief Referee Don Bolello for the Pro Light Series presented by Go Lithium. We got 5 on our list. It might trickle down to 3, but we'll see how the lineup fares when the boats come underneath the causeway under the bridge to make their way out for their Heat 1B here in Pro Light. Also, too, racing here this weekend in Guntersville, Alabama. These same 3 classes of hydroplanes will make their way north to Madison, Indiana next weekend for the Madison Regatta presented by U.S. Premier Tube Mills. All right, Madison, here's your chance. If you're from Madison or the local area in Madison, let's hear you.
Oh, I heard some.
Hawk, I heard, he's the closest to us, those Hawks.
Jeff, that was one of the most enjoyable parts of my boat racing summer last year when we went to Madison, Indiana, and as you have learned along the way, Tana Morissette does not go very far without a cup of coffee in the morning. And we got up, and of course you also know that the princess, and we know who that is, she sleeps in a little bit later. So Tana Morissette and I each morning would find our way down onto Main Street in beautiful downtown historic Madison, Indiana. Found ourselves a little coffee shop down there, and the funny thing that happened was that every single person that walked by us stopped and talked, number one, and they could tell we were out of town. Every single one of them knew you. No matter where we went, Jeff Ayler, I've known Jeff Ayler for years. You got a reputation in that town, son.
Well, that can be good and bad.
I can tell you it was all good, young man. It was all good. So we're still sitting at 6 minutes and 45 seconds on the clock for our second heat of Pro Light hydroplanes presented by Citizens Bank and Trust.
Also, too,
we are running now. We are inside 6:40 to the start, Jeff, so get your watch set here. Coming up, you got about 30 seconds to the 6 minute mark. In 30 seconds, we should hear the boats on the other side of the causeway. As Jeff said, we are expecting 5, maybe 4, maybe 3 boats. We'll see what comes underneath the 15 seconds mark right now. So we will watch the clock. Jeff is setting his watch. Mark, 6 minutes. 6 minutes to the start of Pro Light Heat 1B Citizens Bank and Trust. Second heat of the day. Got 5 boats on the ledger. We'll see how they come out.
And for our fans along the shoreline and watching at home via H1 Unlimited through YouTube, our Pro Light boats, 20 foot in length, 10 foot width, all powered by stock 350 cubic inch engine, generates 400 horsepower, racing trim with the pilot inside, looking at 1,500 pounds. Pro Light boats can reach up to 130 miles per hour in the straightaways, but in competition here at Lake Guntersville, I think at the end of each shoot we'll be looking at about 110 to 115 on this redesigned 1 1/4 mile race course here in Guntersville for the Pro Lights. We now are 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 mark. There is the 5-minute period for Pro Light Heat 1B, sponsored by Citizens Bank and Trust. The entire Pro Light series this year brought to you by Go Lithium. Brad, we had 5 on our sheet. I think we might only see 3 come out. We'll see how many rooster tails or prop wash comes underneath the causeway here on Lake Guntersville. But once we set back down, coming back to racing activity, the wind has picked up some, but racing water still very manageable out here on Lake Guntersville. 4:20 until the start.
I hear them. I hear them on the other side of the causeway, even with the headset on here, so they're making their way here. They're going to come busting underneath that bridge momentarily. It'd be curious to see how that works if you were standing on the bridge, especially if you had a dozen of them. Is it kind of a race to the opening?
That would be some good picture opportunities right there.
Sure would. Second heat of our Pro Lights, presented by Citizens Bank and Trust. Celebrating 20 years of serving the local community, we are proud to partner with Citizens Bank for Hydrofest. Well, we got 2 or 3, Jeff. Let's see if we get a third boat.
Looking for the E-Rat Racing, craft number 40, Bobby King and LDC Construction, and John Wildarski, who won Citizens Bank and Trust Pro Light Heat 1A, will be back out here in the mix as well. So from my vantage point right here, that is Wildarski. He is the first boat you see on the back straightaway, and I believe that is Bobby King on his outside in the LDC Construction. We had 5. Nope, that's actually Dylan Goodell. Dylan Goodell. Bobby King will come from the other pit area because of his double duty with Grand Prix. So let's hope we see the 242 leaving the pit dock for Pro Light. Brad, we're 2 minutes and 45 seconds until the start. It's a clock start format. We've said it many times in our announcing career, the start-finish line buoy. Be there at full song, full throttle. You want to be just a touch to the left of those buoys. If you jump the gun in Pro Light and Grand Prix America, you're issued a 1-minute penalty on elapsed time, which takes you away from the checkered flag and victory, where H1 Unlimited, if you jump the gun, you run 1 extra lap out on the track. I'm seeing some rooster tail activity leaving the pit area to our far right. Coming up on the 2-minute mark. 2 minutes. 2 minutes until the start. Citizens Bank and Trust Pro Light Heat 1B. That will be Bobby King streaking across Lake Guntersville in the LDC Construction. This is the E-Rat Racing craft number 40 with Dylan Goodell out of Allen Park, Michigan. Brad, the boat in turn number 1, that's the one we saw blow over in San Diego last year with Mike Horvath. Extensive rebuild to this boat over the winter, and now they're starting to get their baby steps going after the rebuild. But Dylan's a competitor. They're just taking it easy, but he might be in the mix. It just depends on his comfort level. There's Wildarski in turn number 1, our Heat 1A winner in Pro Light. The Pleasure Seekers and Bobby King join the mix up here to our left. In the LDC Construction, 3, 2, 1, mark. 1 minute period has begun for Citizens Bank and Trust Pro Light Heat 1B. So we are down to 3 boats, 45 seconds until the start. And Brad John Woldarski, he's up there early. Could that be a miscue on his timing? But we're 35 seconds away. I think he's still in pretty good condition. The other two might be just a touch tardy.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how he wants to play that at the top end here. He's got a big corner to go through and scruff off some time. I was wondering if he might go real wide, but it does not look like that's what he's going to do. Well, he's going to leave some space on the buoy row there. So he is going to run it out wide. We'll see. John Wodarski got up there early. He's going to be on the outside. Jeff, you're inside 10 seconds. Bring him down.
Erratic start. We're 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Mark, and we'll call it physically. I believe all 3 were behind the line as we're racing in Pro Light 1B, brought to you by Citizens Bank and Trust. The start is under review. 3 Pro Lights in turn number 1, and Brad, there is Dylan Godell, your leader in the E-Rat Racing, but now here comes Bobby King. The start was good for all 3 pilots, and now King powers out in front in LDC Construction, and Brad Goodell with the boat rebuild over the winter looks good in second.
He looks really good. He's got that inside line through the upper corner. King will have to give him some room. He will, I am sure. They are going to come off of this corner basically dead even and put lap number 1 of 4 in the books. Good racing again in our Pro Light class. Speed on the outside, position on the inside lane.
1 complete, 3 to go. We noticed Bobby King running without that engine, Callie. Maybe that's why he came out late, but came out in time. But still a battle up in the front here in Citizens Bank and Trust. Pro Light 1B, and now Godell canters back, shorter way around on the inside, and here comes King cantering back deck to deck off turn 1.
Boy, they are deck to deck now. King opens it up to maybe 2 boat lengths, but that is all it is. And that boat, like you said, rebuilt in the offseason, running in second place. Dylan Goodell handling it very well. That was a nasty crash down in San Diego, but the boat is clearly coming together right now. They are just about halfway through this 4-lap heat, and right now it's still a doozy in anybody's race out front.
Good dueling here in Citizens Bank and Trust Pro Light 1B. They even it up their deck to deck. We're halfway through it. Bobby King leads officially after lap number 2 by a boat length. But here comes Goodell cantering back on the inside in E-Rat Racing. John Wodarski remains in third in Pleasure Seekers, but your race is in the front. Goodell, King, Goodell, there's King. Deck to deck again.
Boy, it's just a repeat of the last lap. King starts to open it up a little bit now. He's got about 3 boat lengths up the backstretch, lap and a half to go here. Still, Annie Bow, and Goodell looks like maybe he hit some rough water there. I thought maybe he was going to hook. He lost a little bit of ground, and I think that's going to cost him. But on the outside, it is Bobby King, leaving plenty of room for Dylan Goodell. It's still anybody's race, however.
White flag displayed. Now King extending the lead in LDC Construction, making a good rooster tail over Dylan Goodell in second in E-Rat Racing. So King here at the latter half of the 4-lap heat, gaining some momentum on the outside. John Wodarski remains in third in the Pleasure Seekers. All 3 boats working their final time this 1 1/4 mile race course. And Brad, right now, King looking to get those points. He wants to win this year in Pro Light. He does not want to be second by 10 feet.
No, he does not want to be second by 10 feet, but he's not going to win it all right here, but he's going to get a very good run here. He's a rooster tail and a half ahead right now. Just got to finish the deal here, run this corner clean and bring it home, and he will pick up a first-place finish, bring him down to the checkered flag, Jeff.
Citizen Bank and Trust is your Pro Light Heat 1B sponsor. Checkered flag waving, your winner, Bobby King in LDC Construction. Second place will go to Dylan Goodell in the E-Rat Racing. Will bring John Wodarski home off turn number 2. John sees the checkered flag and will score 3rd place points in the Pleasure Seekers. That race unofficially was run in 3 minutes and 22 seconds.
Jeff, before we turn this back to Wyatt over there, we want to make a plea here to some of our fans up and down the shoreline. When the boats are on the water, we need to have everybody out of Lake Guntersville. So if you're standing in the water, could you please just take a few steps back, hop out of the water? It is important that we do that. It is for safety purposes. Our insurance personnel are asking, and so are we. This is for your safety. Please, if you could back up out of the water, we would appreciate it very much. Thank you. Jeff, you keep checking the times on that. We'll see how that works. In the meantime, let's send it back to Wyatt in the studio. Let's pay some bills and listen to some good music.
We are inside the 6-minute period for American Dumpster Unlimited Heat 1B. American Dumpster, your go-to local company for debris removal. We are pleased to have American Dumpster as a sponsor again this year. Stop by and meet their team at their booth in Zone 2, American Dumpster.
Jeff, we've got H1 Unlimited hydroplanes coming away from the pit area right now. They're coming our way at 5 minutes and 10 seconds until the start. A little bit different here than we see at other race courses around the circuit because the pit area is so far away. They let the boats come out on the water after the 6-minute mark. We are inside 5 minutes now. We've got 3 boats set to answer the call here, and we've got 1, 2, 3 rooster tails headed our way. The fans might be thinking, Jeff, wait a minute, there's 8 boats in the pit area. We ran 4 in the first one. Where's our 4th boat in this one? Brent Hall in the 440 has not yet qualified as a driver, so he is not eligible yet to come out and run with these guys. But we've got 3 on the water. It's going to be the U11, the Legend Yacht Transport. Legend Yacht Transport driven by Jamie Nielsen. He will come across the start-finish line. Boat running very, very good this weekend. He's going to be joined on the race course by the U9 Beacon Plumbing with Corey Peabody. Here comes Corey. That white boat, Corey Peabody. He's going to be quick in this one. But don't ever count out Andrew Tate. Jeff, before you make a comment, want to just remind our fans, please stay out of the water when our H1 hydroplanes and all hydroplanes are on the water and racing. So we need you out of the water right now. Parents, help us out just a little bit there if your kids are in there enjoying some cool water. Jeff, 3 minutes and 50 seconds to the start. We got a 3-boat heat, but it should be a good one.
I'm sure these drivers watched the warm-up period back in American Dumpster Unlimited Heat 1A. Dustin Eccles, our top qualifier, was a gun jumper, received a 1-lap penalty, 4th place finish. Brad, these 3 drivers right now with the 3-boat heat, you definitely don't want to jump the gun, but you want to maintain your boat, run a clean race, score where you can, but the main thing is to stay clean, don't get in trouble.
Yeah, and here's some of that start procedure right now. You're watching Jamie Nielsen come down the front straightaway very, very slowly here, and we saw some of the drivers have an issue with the 80-mile-an-hour rule and being a little bit too early on their start procedure in our Heat 1A earlier today, and it cost, unfortunately, our U40 Bucket List Racing and Dustin Eccles, it cost him a potential first-place finish in his heat. But right now, it is Heat 1B presented by American Dumpster. We're 2 minutes and 50 seconds away from the start. Jamie Nielsen right now is sitting on an inside lane. Where is Andrew? Oh, Andrew's halfway up the backstretch. He's been going very slowly ever since he came out. All a part of his start procedure, Jeff.
I think Andrew Tate right now, probably Brad, could be a little bit off. We'll see if he cuts through that infield there. That is a legal maneuver at that part of the race course. But no, he will go on up to turn number 2. Now, Nielsen and Peabody are both keen on one another as we now are 2 minutes and 15 seconds until the start. Brad, the past 2 seasons, Jamie Nielsen in the Royal Blue Chartreuse boat has a knack at getting lane number 1. Can he do it here in American Dumpster 1B?
Well, right now where Andrew Tate sets, you know I have this unofficial timing mark that, yeah, you don't really want to be at the start-finish line at 2 minutes. Well, it's 1:55 right now, and Andrew is right here at the line. He's actually not there yet, and he's going to get there about 1:48. So it'll be interesting to see how this plays out. You mentioned Jamie Nielsen and Corey Peabody were playing kind of a game up the backstretch. Well, Corey said he'd had enough of that game. He gave it a little squirt. He moved away from Jamie Nielsen. 1:30 until the start, Jeff Ayler.
With that maneuver, now Nielsen is toward the back of the pack, and all 3 H1 Unlimited hydroplanes will have to go through turn number 1, get their lane assigned on the back straightaway. In the race before the race, we now are 1 minute and 15 seconds until the start. Tate is the first one off the corner. Will he have the best shot at lane number 1? Peabody's tracking him. Brad still lots to decide. We're coming up on 1 minute. 3, 2, 1, mark. 1 minute period has begun for American Dumpster Unlimited 1B.
And right now it is Andrew Tate in the 91, the Goodman Real Estate. He is sitting on lane number 1. It is Corey Peabody in the Beacon Plumbing, the white U9. That's the second boat going up the backstretch. He is in lane number 2. Jamie Nielsen will be on the outside in the Legend Yacht Transport. Inside 40 seconds to the start. Jeff Ayler, set the lanes. Get him through that upper corner for me, please.
Coming up on the 30-second mark, Andrew Tate will be in lane number 1. Goodman Real Estate, gold and white craft. White boat with the blue lettering. Beacon Plumbing with Corey Peabody. In back of the pack is Nielsen. Now is Nielsen sneaking into 1. Brad, bring him into the line for American Dumpster 1B.
Yeah, let's keep an eye on Nielsen. No, he's got to go to the outside, but he may be the one boat with a lot of boat speed. The others are up there a little bit early. Nielsen was behind the field, but he's got a lot of boat speed on the outside. Inside 5 seconds, we're 4, 3, 2, 1. Mark, and boy, I like that start. It looked good from here, but Jamie Nielsen nailed it in the U11 Legend Yacht Transport, but all 3 of them were tied together as they go down to the lower corner. On the inside, it's Andrew Tate with the lead, the U91 Goodman Real Estate, but it looks like one boat down there, but it is 3, and there's Corey. Corey on the outside by a boat length. Tate and Corey Peabody, Jeff, they are really duking it out.
The start was good. Now Peabody extends his lead by a boat length and a half, but Tate has the advantage to the inside. Shorter way around. Peabody gets there first. Here comes Tate, and they are now side by side at the apex of turn 2.
Coming off the top end of the race course. Remember, fans, we go 3 times around. Watch the corner for Andrew Tate, right on the buoy row, a beauty. But Corey gave him enough room and was able to keep the speed up. This boat's been fast yesterday and today. That boat being the U9, Beacon Plumbing with Corey Peabody, your defending Lake Guntersville champion, running like a rocket. Got a lot of speed off to his left and a lot of good driving skill in there too with Andrew Tate. Andrew's not going to give up on this yet. Look at that. Lane position pulled him up to about 3 boat lengths. This is a good one. We are just about halfway through this heat. Corey Peabody's opened up about a 4 boat length lead, but I'll tell you what, in that left side rear view mirror, Jeff Ayler, Andrew Tate does not want to go away.
Right now, Peabody extending the lead in American Dumpster Unlimited 1B here at the Guntersville Lake Hydrofest, making a 10 boat length advantage. Peabody in front, leaving Tate a lane in there in lane number 1. Nielsen remains in third in Legend Yacht Transport, but Brad Tate's got it down now to 8 boat lengths. Corey tightened it up on the pins on the outside.
Yes, Corey really did tighten it up there. He's going to make it as difficult as he can legally on Andrew Tate. And now they come down to pick up the white flag with 1 to go here in our Heat 1B presented by American Dumpster. It is Corey Peabody and Andrew Tate slamming into the lower end of the race course. Tate gobbles it back up again, back by about 6, maybe 7 boat lengths. This is the checkered flag lap. Off the exit pin of the corner, Corey Peabody running a beautiful race in that Beacon Plumbing. He's opened up almost a full rooster tail, but Tate's still knocking on the door, Jeff.
The key for Peabody right now. Comfortable lead, don't make a mistake in turn number 2. Run his craft clean away from the pins. We go above in turn number 2 with our drone. Peabody driving clean. Tate running out of time. Brad, bring him to the checkered flag and American Dumpster 1B.
It is on the outside. Corey Peabody driving the U9, the Beacon Plumbing for Daryl and Vanessa Strong. Checkered flag flies. Corey Peabody picking up a heat victory. In our Heat 1B presented by American Dumpster, it is Andrew Tate coming home in second place driving the Goodman Real Estate, and a very strong and good run for the U11 Legend Yacht Transport. Jeff Ayler, the last time we saw Corey Peabody in that U9, it was in the final heat in Madison, Indiana. That's the first heat they've run since. He's out front with 400 points. Assuming they get through tech inspection.
The whole team will be absolutely tickled with that heat win here at the Guntersville Lake Hydrofest and American Dumpster Unlimited 1B. Boat completely rebuilt during the off season last year after Madison, and it's a sweetheart of a boat. This is your defending champion here in Guntersville, your APBA Gold Cup winner from 2022. You just saw that craft unofficially win American Dumpster Unlimited 1B. Brad, all 3 drivers, a little bit more on their game at the start. That's what we like to see in H1 Unlimited. Everyone right there at the line to put the officials to work to make certain they're right behind the start-finish line buoy at 0.
And Jeff Campbell just gave us the same signal he gave us yesterday. Little steps, just little improvements each time. That has got to feel so good after all the work, all the 6 and 7 day work weeks they put together to rebuild that hydroplane. There it was.
I saw him this morning at breakfast. Game face, it's on for Jeff Campbell.
Jeff Campbell, wow, he knows what it takes. He's done it in the past. He will do it again. Great run for Corey Peabody, U9, Beacon Plumbing. What do we got here? We have a lost driver's license. Myra Smith Henderson. You might want to check where your driver's license is because I don't think you have it. I think we do here at Start Finish Line. That is Myra Smith Henderson. I think we've got your driver's license here at the Start Finish Line. It is here at the Start Finish Line. We're finding out where it's going to be kept. But come up here, say hello to Jeff Ayler and myself, and we'll even give you your driver's license back.
Exactly.
As far as the license goes, it will be at the award stage. We will award you your driver's license back. That's what we will do. So we're going to step away. Oh, look at the drone shot. Look at this.
That's beautiful.
Corey, we got a great shot of Corey Peabody coming back to the dock. The beautiful Beacon Plumbing is at the dock. What are you saying, Jeff?
I knew the rebuild of this one would be absolutely fabulous, and it doesn't surprise me at all. The boat attitude, the way it's running, they put a lot of effort into this one over the winter, and some of the changes they've made have proved to be 100% right. And Corey Peabody already out of the cockpit of the Beacon Plumbing. We see Steve Compton, our H1 inspector, on hand as well. Steve will give a look-see to the U9 Beacon Plumbing to make certain it was legal and intact during the running of American Dumpster Unlimited 1B. And Brad, when we get those tabulations from H1, we will deliver it to our race fans.
Next up on our schedule, coming up at 2:15, we're going to have another exhibition run of the Miss US, the U36. By the way, Jeff, they ran their fast lap, the Miss US did, at 97 miles an hour. They flirted with 100 miles an hour a year ago when they were here. Also want to remind our fans that at 3 o'clock, from 3 o'clock to 3:30, we are going to have the Grand Prix America autograph session. That will take place right here at the Start Finish Line. So kids, adults, if you got some favorite drivers or favorite boats on the Grand Prix side, we will have their autograph session beginning at 3 o'clock. An exciting Heat 1B here at the Lake Guntersville Hydrofest. We're going to turn it back over to Wyatt, spin some discs, pay some bills. Wyatt, take it away. Quick shift of the gears here, and we are back to action out on the water. Mark Webber aboard the Miss US U36 goes up the backstretch. For those of us of a certain vintage, this is what the boats looked like back in the 50s and the 60s and even into the 70s. We had the driver sitting outside in an open cockpit, most of the time behind the engine. We watched Mark up at the top end of the race course. I think he cut the course the first time through, came down on the GP course, but he's got it now. And here's a big difference you see between the boats of yesteryear and the boats of today. You see the way Mark works that boat through the corner. It just hobby horses up there, and it jerks, and he's got to basically take it off a step and off the plane and drop the transom down in the water and then just work it through the corner. But these boats back in the day, Jeff Ayler, and I know you know this as well as anybody, these boats back in the day in the straightaways, the new boats didn't have anything on them in the straightaways.
To turn number one, the U36 Miss US 4, craft owned by Jay Armstrong out of Omaha, Nebraska. Mark Webber in the cockpit hails out of Washington, Michigan. Mark has been so synonymous with everything involved in hydroplane racing. Champion pilot in the inboard category. Mark actually has 2 unlimited race victories under his belt. The first back in 1997 in the Miss Budweiser at the Silver Cup at Las Vegas, Nevada, and then followed up with a victory the next season in Honolulu, Hawaii, driving for Kim and Debbie Gregory in the Wildfire. Oh, now the US 4 starting to slow. Let's hope there's not a problem with the stock Allison. And Brad, that rooster tail has went down substantially, and it looks like he's cranking her to the right, and I think he's going to take it back to the pit dock.
I think that's exactly what he's going to do. And you listed all of those things that Mark has accomplished as a driver in limited inboard ranks and in unlimited ranks with his 2 unlimited victories. You only forgot one thing. When we go to Detroit, he's our boss.
That's correct.
We call him Sir when we go to Detroit.
And we hope to return to Detroit next year for hopefully the Metro Detroit Chevy Dealers Hydrofest. Mark out of the cockpit quickly, Brad, and from our monitor here with our camera crew from H1 Unlimited through YouTube, looks like he is out looking at that stock Allison engine, so let's hope it's not a serious problem for the U36 Miss US 4.
And before we step away, Jeff Ayler, while he awaits a tow back to the pit area, I want to remind our fans that coming up at 3 o'clock at the start-finish line award stage, we will have our Grand Prix driver's autograph session. Following that, at 3 o'clock, no, the autograph session will take place at 3 o'clock. At 3:30, we'll have the Marshall Precision Manufacturing Pro Light Heat 3. Then at 3:30, at the same award stage as the Grand Prix drivers, we will have our unlimited driver autograph session. Then, unless there's a big problem aboard the Miss US, we will have the Miss US U36 back out here at 4 o'clock for another run. And then at 4:30, we'll have Guntersville Electric Board Grand Prix Heat number 2, which will conclude our day. So we still got lots of action still to come here on Lake Guntersville. It's been an absolutely beautiful day, and that's a great sight, unfortunately, across the water to have the Miss US on the water. Sorry to see him down in the water like that, but Jeff Ayler, as you know, unfortunately, back in the day like that, unfortunately, that was too often the case. They were very cantankerous, and the old aircraft World War II engines, sometimes they just didn't want to go.
The positive note, it appears that there's no hull damage. The boat appears to be setting perfectly in the water. I don't see no listing toward the transom area. Mark walking back up toward the engine compartment, but he did crank it to the right. I believe he was hoping he could drive it back in, but thought better yet to go ahead and hit the kill switch and shut off the stock Allison. So we'll get Mark into a safe position on the race course, and then we'll go back into racing activity. Brad gave you the schedule. We still got things to do here.
Well, we've got one more thing to do, because apparently as soon as Mark clears out there and they get him off of the race course, but he is in an interesting spot over there considering the line of travel that the boats come from the pit area over to the race course. We are being advised by H1 officials that the U40 Bucket List Racing is going to come out for a test run. This is an interesting development, but they are going to come out. So it's going to have a lot of Bucket List Tennessee orange.
That is an interesting development, Brad. A lot of times at inboard hydroplane races, strictly inboard, there's no testing, but generally, say if a boat had an accident or changing an engine, what they do is they call that a safety check, and they'll take those boats out in the water, give them a lap or two to make certain everything is set in stone. So this is very unusual in the unlimited category, allowing a craft to test here while we're in the racing activity. But we do have a testing session, I believe, scheduled for tomorrow morning on Sunday for all classes.
We do indeed. So the boats will get another opportunity to run. So we will await the arrival of the U40, Dustin Eccles. Until such time as we get to that point, let's throw it back to Wyatt back in the studio, pay some bills, listen to some good tunes. Wyatt, cue it up for us, bud. race fans, back to some unexpected added activity on the water. If you look across, you will see a large rooster tail coming up from behind the U40, Dustin Eccles in Bucket List Racing. Dustin was our top qualifier with a record-setting lap here today of 172 miles per hour. Wowed the crowd, unfortunately jumped the start in his first heat and wound up in 4th place, but clearly showed everybody this morning during qualifying, this is a boat everybody is going to have to deal with. The boat is owned by Kelly and Sharon Stockland out of the Snohomish, Washington area. The boat is Tennessee Orange. It is Bucket List Racing. He cuts the course, comes across on the GP corner, which is a legal maneuver, and not quite sure exactly what Dustin is going to do. You talk to Dustin about what kind of a guy he is and what he likes to do. He makes the comment he's a diesel mechanic. He has been so since 2000. And if I can quote him, it says right here, Jeff Ayler, I love anything related to horsepower. Well, he's got a whole bunch of horsepower right behind him as he goes through our lower corners. Sorry.
Afternoon after the conclusions of Unlimited 1A and 1B. It looks like he's cutting through the short course once again. Or cutting the course before turn 2. My apologies, Mr. Luce.
Okay. He's making a corner here. Looks like he's coming around the GP turn, but it's just a legal cut of the H1 Unlimited course. I got an interesting point about Dustin. He was asked recently what his favorite unlimited hydroplane of all time was. You know what he said? He said it was the Coors Dry from 1992, built by Ron Jones Jr., and that was a very cool unlimited hydroplane, but maybe the best point of that whole thing is, technically and by definition, that boat's racing here this weekend, and Corey Peabody just picked up a heat victory in Heat 1B. Dustin's still out on the race course, hasn't gone terribly fast.
Maybe making some timing runs.
He could be. We just honestly don't know exactly what he's doing. But for whatever reason, they asked H1 Unlimited officials, allowed them the opportunity to get out on the race course. I'm not going to be at all surprised if he doesn't cut the course again, but it looks like this time he's going to take it all the way up to the top end. Every time I've tried to predict something so far today, Jeff, I haven't done real good. I think I'm about 0 for 4.
You're doing fine. That was a remarkable lap earlier. Sure 171, 294, and I saw the post made by Andy Muntz. So Chip Hanauer, Dave Villwalk, Mark Tate, Dustin Eccles are the 4 pilots to go over 170 and qualifying in Unlimited.
That's what the record book is showing. There's some question about whether or not it was a Gold Cup qualification or whether or not it was a lap, but the bottom line is the laps were turned north of 170 miles an hour. Of course, as you know, in the Gold Cup, you've got to have a 2-lap average, and there may not have been a Gold Cup 2-lap average north of 170, but the lap did get turned.
Correct.
And in my book, 170 mile an hour lap is 170 mile an hour lap, depending on how you click the stopwatch.
170.000, that's right there. So Dustin continuing his paces around the course here at Lake Guntersville here in northeast Alabama. Going around at a leisurely pace. So will Brad. We'll see if he opens it up, but so far I kind of doubt he does. They're obviously doing some checks on this racecraft underneath the engine bonnet, or maybe some parts and pieces hanging off of it.
Yep. So we'll just watch him as he goes slowly up toward the top end of the race course. Dustin Eccles. Going slowly around the race course. He cut the course a couple of times. Now he's He's about to finish his second lap. Now he puts the foot in into it just a little bit, coming off the top end. Jeff Ayler, maybe we'll see a hard run come down here. Our top qualifier for the 2023 Lake Guntersville Hydrofest and the race for the Southern Cup, Dustin Eccles. There he puts the foot into that Tennessee Orange U40.
Well, this boat has run flawless, and Brad, I just heard it, but did you even notice earlier today, a few times up here off this turn, you can hear that compressor stall.
Yeah, we were talking about the pops and bangs that we were hearing on the U3, the piston packer, while he was out on the race course. That is an entirely different issue when it comes to the turbine boats, and you called it exactly, Jeff Ayler. It is compressor stall. That's not necessarily a big problem if the boat is decelerating, or as I like to say, the driver's pulled his foot out of it. But if you're trying to accelerate and you're getting some compressor stalls, yeah, not so much.
Exactly, and that kind of takes away from that boat performance for a matter of moments as Dustin continues to work up the back straightaway. U40 bucket list racing. More pro light activity. Grand Prix America racing coming up this afternoon here at day number 2 of 3 of the Hydrofest. But Brad, tomorrow's the big day, the Southern Cup Championship, scheduled to go off at 5:30 local time here in Guntersville.
Here comes Dustin again. He's going to put the foot in the 40. The bucket list racing come across. Give us a good look at that beautiful hydroplane, our top qualifier for the 2018 Southern Cup. So smooth on these water conditions. They are absolutely ideal, and Dustin's got to be enjoying that out there by himself.
Craft built in 2007 by Dale Van Wieringen. Started out as the Freedom Racing, but those parts were salvaged off the Freedom Racing. But for many years, the O'Farrells ran this craft with Brian Perkins in the cockpit. It's always been one of these boats in the know of the sport. It's one that's good, but it's never really shown its ability. Well, it showed it in qualifying here in Guntersville, because this one's one to contend with depending on how it scores in the second and third sections. It's no doubt one of the favorites for the Southern Cup.
Oh, absolutely. And it's interesting that you bring up this boat was originally built with parts from the Freedom Racing Fire in Seattle. That is a fire, Jeff Ayler. I've seen a few of them on the water. I know you have as well. That's a fire I don't think anybody who saw it will ever forget. Before the boat even went down in the water, it was a big fire, and you knew it was going to be trouble. But for our fans who were here in 2018, our fourth place boat that day was this hull. And it was driven by young Brian Perkins, and to your point, it was owned by the O'Farrell family. They were here in 2018. This is that boat.
Trying to think of the Freedom Racing driver that year, Brad, in 07. Kevin Aylesworth's name comes to mind.
Yes, Kevin Aylesworth. He owned the boat as well. Oh, that was a nasty fire. And he couldn't get out. He had the full coverage helmet on with the, they had the tight waterproof full coverage helmet, and he had that airline, and there's, if you watch the video of it, he's leaning over the front of the boat, leaning away from the boat, trying to snap that cord, and it finally snapped, and he was able to fall into the water. But he said it was getting a little toasty in the cockpit there for a while.
Well, there's been some horrific fires at Lake Washington and Seattle. Of course, the 1974 Miss US burned to the water line, and Wild Bill Cantrell had an incident too back in the 50s. Was it one of the Gale boats?
Such Crust in 1952. And then don't forget the 1965 Gold Cup. Bill Brow driving a Miss Exide, leading the field up the backstretch on lap number 1. Why do I remember this stuff? I don't know, but here comes Dustin Eccles. But yeah, there was a big fire in 65 in Seattle on the backstretch of lap 1 of the APBA Gold Cup. So Dustin Eccles has laid down about 5 laps now, and he's not certainly going fast. We're seeing some lap speeds floating around here of brilliant 102, maybe pushing 103.
Now he's pointing the nose of the boat back to the pit dock, so Dustin Elko's run is complete here. Testing the U40 Bucket List Racing, your top qualifier here for the Southern Cup at 171.294 miles per hour.
Looking right now, we are watching a replay of the lap. Thank you very much. But I'm going to tell you something. That's not the lap. Nick Kish, I'm telling you, that's not the lap. If you listen to that interview, when he talks about the run, Mark Tate will say, we ran it without the wing. And he said, we just decided to give the boat a try and run it, and we ran that 170 with no wing on the boat. That footage has wing on it, so just throwing that out there. We're going to wait and get that official, but we're checking the monitors. We may have a change in our schedule. Let's throw it back to Wyatt in the studio right now. Let's play some tunes, pay some bills. We've got to check on our schedule because we're getting wind there may be a change. So stand by. Wyatt, let's go. So attention race fans. At the start-finish line right now, at the award stage, which is right here at the start-finish line, we have got our Grand Prix America drivers are here. They've got hero cards. Autograph session is going to be very leisurely, if you will. They're just sitting on the stage up here. They've got hero cards. Come see them. Come say hello. They would love to talk to you. Kids over here, bring them over here to come see the drivers. They're over here. They got pens and cards and good stuff. So Grand Prix drivers autograph session right now at the start-finish line. And if you go over there right now, you can be first in line. Grand Prix autograph session beginning right now. Wyatt, crank them up. Attention race fans up and down the beach. It's been a little quiet out on Lake Guntersville, but we have a plan to rectify that. So coming up approximately at 4 o'clock, following the H1 Unlimited Driver's Autograph Session, we are going to put a couple of our H1 Unlimited hydroplanes on the water. I believe first up that's going to come out, Jeff Ayler, representing Miss Madison Racing. I think we're going to have the U1 with Dylan Runny, the Miss Homestreet. They are going to come out and they are going to run some laps alongside the U91, the Miss Goodman Real Estate with Andrew Tate. They're going to run a predetermined amount of laps. It is simply an exhibition, not going to be timed, but they're going to come out and try and put some action on the water. Good photo ops. It should be and with the water conditions like it is right now, this should be very, very good. But wait, there's more. After they get back to the pit area, we're going to bring two other boats out. Not sure exactly which one, but one of the strong boats is going to come out. With them is going to be the 40, Bucket List Racing. So one of the strong boats and the 40 will come out. They will do the same thing. This is going to happen shortly after 4 o'clock. When we get those boats back to the pit area, hopefully by then we'll have our Grand Prix America hydroplanes in the water, and our GPA boats are going to come out and run their final heat of the day. So, Jeff Ayler, we're going to have H1 Unlimited hydroplanes on the water here. A couple of two-boat exhibitions. It should be fun to watch and a great photo op.
Oh, exactly, Brad. Extra added bonus for the fans here along the shoreline in northeast Alabama. And also, too, we have the H1 Drivers Autograph Session coming up here very shortly, where the fans can come up and meet and greet the pilots driving the world's fastest race boats at Lake Guntersville right here at the Southern Cup. So a little bit of extra goodies for our fans here along the shoreline. I'm looking forward to it, and anytime we see those big pups out on the water, I like it.
I do too. I do too. So the translation of all of that, don't go away.
Yeah,
we've got more to come. We're going to have H1 Unlimiteds on the water shortly after 4 o'clock. Maybe this would be a good time to grab something to eat, go see our vendors, buy some shirts. My wife just sent me a note and said we need to deposit some more money into the account. She showed up an hour and a half ago, and I think the account's dead.
There was one buttoned-up short-sleeve shirt over there through the regatta committee. They did not have my size, and I think I need to call the manufacturer and order one of those and see if they can ship it to Madison. I liked it. They were out of XL. Stop by and see them for your official merchandise for the Guntersville Lake Hydrofest. And there are dynamite displays here along the shoreline. We have this boat display. Guntersville Chevrolet has their vehicles on site. And also, too, plenty of food and drink vendors. And there's one trailer, Brad, I walked by earlier. They had a massive trailer full of beverages for people that are 3 times 7 and above, but I could not stop because I got to help you.
Yes, you do have to help me. So we talked about the autograph sessions that are coming up, and we're talking about speed that's going to be out here on the water, but we've got speed on and off the water here at Hydrofest. The Mob Squad is on site this year at Hydrofest with some of the fastest motorcycles in the world, along with race cars. Stop by and see them in Zone 2 near the food truck area. Have you seen those motorcycles yet, Jeff?
I have not seen those, but I know my friend down from Chandler Chevrolet, Tim Taylor. He's a motorcycle enthusiast. I'm sure Tim has saw him. I bet he gives me a report over the cellular device.
And fans, don't miss the Marshall County Wranglers with their Jeeps located in Zone 2. And you get to go up there, Jeff Ayler, and you get to vote for your favorite. There will be winners in Kids' Choice, People's Choice, Best in Show, and announcers. Now, I made the last part up. But go over there and vote, Mr. Ayler. Take a look at this. This is going on in Zone 2, the Marshall County Wranglers. They've got their Jeeps over there. Now I know what we saw coming across the causeway this morning. We got passed by about, I don't know, pick a number, 20, maybe 25 Jeeps, and we thought, wow, wonder where they're going. I know who they are now. Marshall County Wranglers with their Jeeps. I don't know if we're going to try and get the Miss U West back out, but fans, don't go away. We're going to have H1 Unlimited hydroplanes on the water here. It's going to be an exhibition, couple of Madison boats, going to have one of the strong boats. And we're going to have the U40 with Dustin Eccles. And the strong boat and the U40 are going to come out together. So don't go away. Following that, We've got our final heat of Grand Prix America. Wyatt, if you're ready to go with some good tunes, let's get it going because there's still lots more to come. It's day 2 at the 2023 Lake Guntersville Hydrofest, the race for the Southern Cup. Wyatt, crank 'em up. Thank you very much, Wyatt. We toned down the music. Wyatt, you've done an amazing job today. You're not done. I need you here tomorrow, young man, but we're ready. Wyatt doing a terrific job helping us out. We talked about our H1 Unlimited Drivers Autograph Session. That is going on right now at the awards stage. The drivers are there. Appreciate them and our Grand Prix America and our Pro Light drivers who showed up for the autograph session. It's hot. They're in the sun. But the reason they are in the sun is so you can have a photographic opportunity with them as well. And I see a lot of the drivers getting down with the kids, getting on their knees in the grass and having a great little conversation and a photo op with the parents and the cameras. Very good. You're not too late. Go over there, get in line. Then we're going to follow that up with our two-boat exhibitions, H1 Unlimited style, that are going to come out on the water. But Jeff Ayler, wait. There's more. The U-36, the Miss US, our friend Mark Webber. They are going to lift that boat into the water, and it is in the water right now. The boat is in the water. They will be coming out shortly.
Were you able to find out the problem?
I was not. I did not talk to anybody about the problem. I don't know what it was, but I can tell you for sure. The good news is, can't be too bad. If they're coming out for a run, nothing's going to happen till our safety and rescue personnel get back into position. They got a little break, and now you watch that rescue boat. They will jump into the middle of the course. At that point, watch for the green flag to be hung. It's there right now, but I can tell you nobody's coming out on the race course until that search and rescue boat is in place. So still lots to come here at the 2023 Lake Guntersville Hydrofest. Look at the water conditions, Jeff Ayler.
Perfect.
Wow.
Perfect.
Absolutely perfect. So the schedule. Driver's autograph session for H1 Unlimited is going on right now. Then the U-36, I think while the autograph session is still going on, the U-36 Miss US is going to come out, run some laps with Mark Webber. We've got special buses lined up here on the boulevard for our H1 Unlimited drivers. They are going to be bussed back across the causeway and into the pit area where their boats are going to be in the water. Their boats will be in the water. The drivers are going to grab their helmets, their driver's suits, and they are going to jump aboard, and we will start our exhibitions. Then, after we do the two-boat exhibitions, then Grand Prix America will take to the water, and we will have actual racing with them. Which heat have we got, Jeff Ayler?
It will actually be heat number 2, and that will be sponsored by Guntersville Chevrolet. Located on Highway 431 in Guntersville. Visit Guntersville Chevrolet for your new and used car needs. A buying experience where you will be in the driver's seat. Thank you, Guntersville Chevrolet. Brad, I met Bruce Moss there on Thursday. Saw Bruce earlier today. He handed out the award to Bobby King, our winner in Grand Prix America, heat number 1. And they have plenty of displays here along the shoreline. Guntersville Chevrolet.
I hear the roar of the Miss US U-36, the boat built in 1957. I love to ask the trivia question. Andy Muntz, our trivia expert, has been texting us some of the answers. So, Andy, put on your hat. When can you tell me the last time was that a boat owner had two brand new boats built in the same year from different builders? There's a good one for you. Meanwhile, I'm going to step down, get something cold to drink, and I'll be back over here before Mr. Webber can hit the start-finish line, Jeff.
Thank you, Brad Luce. Mark Webber up in turn number 2, exhibition run here by the U-36. Miss US 4, stock Allison Power, boat builder Henry Lauterbach, and that's realistic. Back in the day, that little porpoise activity through the turn, and Brad, here comes the roar of the stock Allison.
Yeah, this is what it was back in the day. You'd line up 5 or 6 of these things wide. That was the sight. That was the sound. And I was talking a little bit earlier, Jeff, these boats, these old vintage boats, they didn't have anything on the boats of today, really, in the chute speed. It was down there in the corners. You see him drop the boat completely off the step. The rear end drops down in the water, and it is taking him a lot of work to horse that bad boy through the corner. That's 8,000 pounds worth of race boat he's got a wrangle on right there. And then they would get to the exit pin and they'd start winding these things up. And back in the day, we had 3-mile and 5-mile race courses. You see the rooster tails start to kick up now. And of course, he's not opening it up as wide as it will go, but man, it was halfway up the backstretch. These things would start to really move, and it's really not a big question that here on Lake Guntersville, the 200-mile-per-hour record and level was eclipsed back in 1962, and it took 40-some years for somebody to go out and break it.
Of course, that was Roy Doobie right here at Lake Guntersville, 200.41 miles per hour. That record set in 1962 is Mark Wattler's at Miss US 4 through turn number 2, and got that left side up there, Brad. Not much of a skid fin on this one, but nice little spectacle for our fans along the shoreline.
Yeah, Mark's got it wound up here pretty good. This might be a pretty good lap. He turned a lap earlier today at 97 miles an hour. The only thing I know for sure about this boat is the guy right now in Marshall County that's having the most fun is probably Mark Weber. He's having himself a good time out there.
Mark has been with the Miss US 4 team for several years now, and when Jack Schaefer Jr., unfortunately, who we lost earlier this year, he drove this boat many seasons for Jay Armstrong, and Jack decided probably time to give it up, and the first person he called was Mark Weber, and Mark was so gracious to get that call. Brad, Mark he really loves driving this boat. It's a Detroit boat. Mark is from the Detroit area, and he's very honored to drive this craft in vintage.
Yeah, I made the comment that this boat was christened and put into competition in the 1957 racing season, and that would have been the first race that the boat attended was the 1957 Gold Cup on Lake Washington, which was another real interesting little fact about that 1957 event in Seattle. That was the first year of the Stan Sayers Memorial Pit area. Prior to that, they were at the Mount Baker Pit area. But this boat showed up for that 57 Gold Cup. You mentioned Mark Weber was from, or is from, the Detroit area. He too has a great sense and feel and appreciation for the Detroit-Seattle rivalry. And in 1957, that was right at the height. Mark pulls his foot just as he gets across the start-finish line. Jeff, I mentioned the second time we've talked about the Detroit-Seattle rivalry a little bit, or the fact that I brought it up. I've always said that the 1957 Gold Cup in Seattle, it wasn't the end of the rivalry, but in 1956 and 1955, those were the two pinnacle years of the Detroit-Seattle rivalry. And fans, the reason for that rivalry was the city that got to host the APBA Gold Cup was the city of the representing yacht club of the winning boat the previous year. Well, Detroit had won Gold Cups left and right for 100 years, and we sent some automobile dealership owner back east by the name of Stan Sayers with a boat called Slow Motion 4, and hydroplane racing was never the same. And when that boat showed up in Detroit in 1950 and claimed the Gold Cup victory and brought the race to Seattle, if it wasn't for that single event, I can tell you for a fact I would not be sitting here.
Brad, you explained it perfectly, and Stan Sayers won that race 1950, and you know, you talked about those 55 and 56 races. It was so tense. We had rhubarbs and fights and court battles. I've never explained it this way, but if you want to compare it to sports of the current form a couple of decades later, it was a big rhubarb like Ali and Frazier.
Absolutely. Except they were supposed to fight. The hydroplane guys weren't. But oh, did they ever. And the funny thing about that Detroit-Seattle rivalry in Seattle, too, was the guys that were right at the center of it was the legendary great Bill Muncy and the equally legendary and equally great Lee Shaineth. Those two guys knew each other. Shaineth was from Detroit, Muncy was from Seattle, and these guys were good marketing and good salespeople. They knew what they had. Shanath would come on the TV and the radio in Seattle. He just ripped Seattle. Said Seattle had a terrible lake, the course sucks, everything was terrible. Pit facilities, the whole thing. Muncie would go, well, at least we're not back in Detroit, and just badmouth Detroit. Then the two of them go out to dinner and laugh at what they did. The newspapers would print the whole thing, and it was quite a time.
But the twist to that, Muncie was a Detroit native.
He was, and you mentioned the 1955 regatta. Prior to the 1955 Gold Cup in Seattle, the Slow Motion 5 did the famous loop-de-loop blow over, the first one we ever had, blew the boat over, so the 5 was out of the race. The 4 had a tough day, so gone were the Slow Mos, who had won 5 straight Gold Cups, and Seattle realized they only had one other boat to root for, and it was driven by a Detroit guy named Muncie. Muncie saves the day. He comes back. He's waving to the fans. Everything is great. Big celebration in the pit area. Somebody tapped him on the shoulder and said, you know, you get 400 points for the fastest elapsed time over the entire event. And he lost that race by about 4 seconds. Oh, they were not happy about it. Detroiters went nuts. The 56 Gold Cup was back on the Detroit River, and I think they better take the Miss US U-36 back to the dock, Jeff, or you're going to have to unplug my microphone because I'm getting spooled up here.
Oh, Brad, I always love when you talk about those races in the 50s, and Seattle is give Mark Webber a wave. Showman lap, cool-off lap for the U-36, Miss US 4, and Brad, one of the unique features, especially for you growing up in the Seattle area, when the hydroplane racing came to Lake Washington in 1951, the local television stations, when the crafts would qualify, they would show live footage on television of hydroplanes qualifying in Seattle, which upset females watching Search for Tomorrow and The Edge of Night.
And the scary part is that is really true. And all 3 networks. And this is when they started qualifying on Monday. And they would qualify all week long leading up to the race. And you're right, whenever a boat hit the water, black flag on the race course as Mark Webber takes the Miss US U-36 back to the pits. But you're right, whenever a boat would take to the water, all 3 networks would just cut to it. That was the end of, what did you call it?
The Search for Tomorrow and The Edge of Night. Those were 2 old soaps.
I don't know that I even want to.
But can you imagine
Wait,
folding?
Debbie down there knew what that was.
Can you imagine folding your laundry and Bill O'Mara's voice going, the Slow-Mo 5, and it was doing a 360, and, well, maybe the towel folding had to take a break for a bit.
Towel folding had to take a break. Those were, it was an interesting time in Seattle. I was very, 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 very young, but I do remember those times. I remember breaking in with all 3 networks, and there was a very passionate love affair between Seattle and the Unlimited Hydroplanes. You could almost call it a romantic relationship between the city and their boats. They represented themselves with their boat against those hated Detroiters who were coming out and take our Gold Cup away. You know,
it was intense.
It was intense, and we didn't have our Seattle Supersonics, we didn't have our Seattle Mariners, we didn't have the Seahawks. This was our professional sport, and once a year, the circus came to town.
And it's been a tradition ever since 1951. Of course, unfortunately, no races in Seattle in 20, and the city and Seattle Seafair elected not to run in 21. But, Brad, they're back.
They are.
This year in Seattle. The return of the APBA Gold Cup, run for the first time on Lake Washington since 1985.
Yeah, and I think it's really exciting. 37 years since the great city of Seattle and the terrific Lake Washington Racecourse has hosted the APBA Gold Cup. We talked a lot about Bill Cahill and his sponsorship of the U8 and the U9. For Daryl and Vanessa Strong with the Beacon Plumbing and the Beacon Electric. Bill Cahill, local businessman in the Northwest, has stepped up big time to make sure we could have the APBA Gold Cup in Seattle. There is a lot, and I mean a lot, of activity, and there's a lot of excitement being generated about this particular event. The publicity has already begun. It's getting very large. I am really hoping this is a big event. Yes, I will be there. I wouldn't miss it if I wasn't working. I don't care. I would still be down there. It's going to be fun for me. It's going to be fun for fans of Seattle, whether they were fans before and remember the past or not. it's APBA Gold Cup racing. It's a big thing, and it's a big part of Seattle's history.
I'm glad to see it back in Seattle. Should be a wonderful event, the 2023 APBA Gold Cup. The first weekend of August out at Lake Washington in Seattle. And, of course, you'll be able to watch it through H1 Unlimited through YouTube. And, Brad, the affiliate station of King TV, Kong, K-O-N-G, will have coverage. And I believe they will be streaming live as well over the World Wide Web.
Jeff, you are from Madison, Indiana, yet you seem to know all of the network affiliate stations in the Pacific Northwest. You're now quoting soap operas from back in the 1950s. I don't know how you do this, but we can talk about that off air, because let's send it back to Wyatt. Let's have him spin some disc, because I think what's coming next is we're going to have our exhibitions with our H1 Unlimited hydroplanes. As I look and stare into the monitor, I can tell you right now we've got at least 2 of them in the water. That's the plan. Get the drivers over there, put them in. Wyatt, play us some tunes, bud. So it's Corey's boat. Corey's got the trouble. Well, only one strong boat can run, because the other one's got a problem. Yeah, so it's Corey's boat.
You know, at the end, I watched the Ed tonight in high school. It was only a half hour.
And then all my children came on.
They're
Thank you very much, Wyatt, for backing down the music right there. We promised some more action on the water, but before we get there, I have one last request for my little friends that are right back here that are now down there in the water. Can we get them out of the water? We've got to have it out just on the shore while the boats run. That's all we ask. You guys are awesome. Thank you. And if you're in the water down below where I can't see, if you could step back, please, out of the water. It is for your safety and the safety of those around you. And now we're going to have a couple of boats come away from the pit area. One is up and running. I do believe, I'm going to take a guess. I've been wrong all day. I could do the George Costanza thing and say, well, you know I'm always wrong, so I could just say it's the other one. But I think it's the one. I think it's the home street that is coming out first. Behind him is going to be Andrew Tate in the U91, the Miss Goodman Real Estate, pushing some water off the front of the sponsons right now, but they'll shake it loose, break it loose. That is Dylan Runny in the U1, the Miss Home Street, the first one away from the dock. And behind him, Andrew Tate. We are going to run what I understand is going to be a 3-lap exhibition, Mr. Jeff Ayler. And now I get to ask you my favorite question that I ask you every single year. These boats are owned by the community of Madison, Indiana. You are part of that Madison community. What part of these boats do you own?
Well, Brad, I'm glad you asked me that question this year because I did a clarification with the new Miss Madison pilot and the gold and white boat on Thursday at the street party. For a number of years now, I've always lived outside the city limits out in Rikers Ridge. But I got with our mayor on Rikers Ridge, which we don't have one, but it's Janine Little. So we filed a petition, and they elected to have me come back as ownership on that 91 boat. I told Tate I own the whole rear end of it.
There you go.
So
tell them to be careful.
I said, be careful. That paint material costs a lot of money. Be safe.
All right, so Andrew Tate, the U91 Goodman Real Estate, comes off the top end of the race course. Dylan Runny on the outside in the home street. Talk about a photo op. How about that? Right there. That's about 160 miles an hour right there as these guys hammer down to the lower end of the race course. Are they putting on a show? Of course they are. This is an exhibition. Big wall of water off the trailing edge on that left side skid fin. Andrew Tate now pulls out by about 4 or 5 boat lengths, but I got a $5 bill that says that blue one pulls right up alongside before he's at the midway point.
And Brad, also too, we just lost recently Miss Madison Incorporated President Bob Hughes. I'm sure the Madison team will do this next week, but this could be a preview of what to see next weekend at Madison. And this is an opportunity as well to remember the memory of the late Bob Hughes. And the race next weekend, I noticed, was just posted. It will be the Bob Hughes Memorial 73rd Madison Regatta presented by U.S. Premier Tube Mills.
And Jeff Ayler, I do not live in Madison, Indiana, but I'm going to tell you, as it should be. As it should be. Bob Hughes was a terrific guy. Andrew Tate, he's smoking that thing pretty hard as he goes down to the lower end of the race course. Dylan Runny saying, now, I thought this was an exhibition. Thought we were supposed to run close together and side-by-side kind of stuff. Watch Dylan come off the corner here. He's trailing there. Tell you what, Andrew says, yeah, I'm going to use this as a test session, and I think I like the combination I got in the boat right now. Look at the long, low rooster tail. That's how you know somebody's really humming, and there's no jagged spots in it. Andrew Tate driving the 3rd winningest hull in the history of H1 Unlimited Racing. Needs 2 more to tie and become the leading hull in the history of H1 Unlimited. Well, Andrew only knows one way to drive, and that's put it out front and go. Great sight as we watch the boats hammer down to the lower end of the race course. Jeff, I like this.
I like it too, Brad. Andrew Tate, I think, is taking an opportunity to learn something on the buoy row and the boat out in front, the gold, white, black trim, Goodman Real Estate. Dylan Runny, rookie in the unlimited class this year, still getting his feet wet, but Brad, once that home street is right, Dylan Runny will be a force in this class, and we already know the guy leading here. Andrew Tate has been a force for many years, one-time Gold Cup champion in Detroit, off the turn, and nice run here by the two here in Guntersville.
Yeah, and Andrew Tate's in the same situation that Dylan Runny is. This is only the second day he's ever driven that boat, and it's all about seat time. Seat time, seat time. The more time in the boat, the better. If you thought they were going to get a checkered flag on that lap and head back, I don't think it's happening, because not with the speed that Andrew's packing coming off the corner. Dylan's still running hard after him. We thought maybe they were going to run 3 laps, but hey, I'll watch another one. They can sit there and run them dry as far as they want. I'll watch.
Also, too, gives them another opportunity, especially for Andrew Tate, because he's the 2018 Southern Cup champion. Gives Tate more familiarity of this redesigned course, and of course, this is Dylan Runny's first crack here in Guntersville for the Southern Cup. So this could be a valuable exhibition run here for both drivers and both boats.
Well, I think anytime you can get in the boat, anytime you can get on a race course, it is good. Andrew Tate picks up a checkered flag at the U91, the Goodman Real Estate. Here comes Dylan Runny. That blue and white Miss Home Street, if it's possible to do, it just oozes speed.
Oh, it's been a wonderful boat since its debut in H1 Unlimited. Back, 2017?
2018.
2018, thank you, Brad. And since then, Jimmy Shane had been the primary pilot of the craft, and Jimmy's elected to retire. Spoke to his parents here this weekend, Stu and Robin Shane. Glad to see them here from Havre de Grace, Maryland. And now, fans along the shoreline, get your phones, get your cameras. Here comes the photo op.
Yeah, here it comes, ladies and gentlemen. And you talked about the late Bob Hughes. Just take a moment, Madison, Indiana, and think about Bob Hughes, all he did for hydroplane racing and for Miss Madison Racing. I'm sure he is upstairs looking down and smiling.
Oh, you know he is. And Bob was such a successful businessman with Clifty Engineering. Well, there went the photo op.
Dylan said, I got some speed in this bad boy. Well, now they got to head back, because that was a black flag, and that means take it on home. Boy, when the water's like this, they are just so smooth at that speed.
Now we're having fun, but you notice how Tate reaccelerated. He just don't like to be in second.
No.
It's a
like
race
to be in second when he's at the grocery store and the shopping line.
It's a race back to the dock, just like the Days of Thunder movie with Tom Cruise and the other actor's name I can't remember, but what, they were on those hospital gurneys and they got off
That's
and
right.
raced down the hallway. Had a little bit of accident there at the end too. Had to get the red flag out.
So, number 1 on our list, we want to thank Miss Madison Racing.
Yeah.
Charlie Grooms and both race teams over there, our 2 drivers, Andrew Tate and Dylan Runny, for putting those 2 boats on the water, coming out and put on what was a very cool exhibition. And right now we are told, next up, the U40 Bucket List Racing with Dustin Eccles, going to come out with a young man by the name of J. Michael Kelly in an all-red Beacon Electric. They're going to come out and have the same kind of fun, and to them, that's fun. And here they come. We got Rooster Tails coming away from the other side. J. Michael Kelly and Dustin Eccles coming across the lake. I think this is great.
I like it, Brad. Coincidentally, these 2 boats ran against each other back in American Dumpster Unlimited 1A. Dustin Eccles had the unfortunate gun jump. Kelly scored the win in the Beacon Electric. Kelly was on the inside then. Will they flip-flop here for the fans along the shoreline in this special run?
Yeah, well, we're going to find out here very quickly. I think the lead boat going up there is the Bucket List Racing. We've got them on our monitor, and I don't see a wake in front of that. Well, they're pretty much dead even coming up if you paint the angle a little bit different. And they will... The boat on the inside has entered the insurance markers, so has the Bucket List Racing on the outside. J. Michael Kelly will sit on the inside. Top end of the race course, J. Michael Kelly And Dustin Eccles starting to sound in the motors like they're going to do the same thing. Slow to the exit pin of the corner. Now put your foot in it, bring them down. H1 Unlimited hydroplanes. Mike's already flying the 8 as he comes across. I had a nice very quick conversation with Dustin Eccles over there. I went over, he stuck around for a minute after the autograph session, and I said, hey, congratulations, man. I said, that was something truly special. And he said, you know, last night at dinner, he said, we were all talking, and we wondered if we were going to see a 170-mile-an-hour lap, and if we did, who might be able to do it? And he said, honestly, we didn't have our own name in that hopper. Only one of them got there, and it was them. Now, here comes Eccles on the outside, going to close it up on Mike. There's Dustin on the outside. They're going to come off the corner virtually tied together. Again, great opportunity for a photo. Sunshine, water conditions, doesn't get much better. Couple of guys having a lot of fun. Can I say it, Jeff? You can throw a blanket across them, cover both of them.
You're exactly right, Brad. As they go back into turn number 1, J. Michael Kelly, one-time APBA Gold Cup winner on the inside in the dominant red, Beacon Electric. Dustin Eccles on the outside in the Tennessee Orange, Bucket List Racing, and there they are, deck to deck.
Yeah, there they are, about a boat length between the two. Look at that. Now Kelly says, I'm going to pull up alongside and pull up out front. See if Dustin gives it a little squirt and runs with him. They're running a whole lot closer than the two Madison boats did just a few minutes ago. They are literally side by side, but the key is, Jeff, as we can see here on the monitor, the lane space between them. Kelly's running about lane 1, and Dustin's running out about lane 4.5, maybe 5. We'll call it 4.5. Plenty of space between them. Don't want to do anything silly, but you sure want to have some fun. Dustin by a boat length.
Halfway through this run for J. Michael Kelly and Dustin Eccles, back into turn number 1. Brad, the course reconfiguration, both turns. Listening to David Norton prior to the event on the Facebook Live show, 2,094 feet, and I like it. We've seen some sheer speed so far this weekend from our H1 Unlimiteds. The 171 lap, but man, many laps above 165 here this weekend in testing and qualifying.
We have indeed. There is a checkered flag hanging at the start-finish line here for our two boats. And if we were racing, boy, would we be hooting and hollering right about now, because they're going to come off virtually dead even. J. Michael Kelly, Beacon Electric on the inside, Bucket List Racing, Dustin Eccles on the outside. Going to be a charge for the checkered flag. Going to be close. Going to be Dustin Eccles. Going to get down here first by a boat length.
Make it 28 feet, the length of the hull, and Dustin gets the checkered, and J. Mike comes across in the second spot, so drinks this evening are bought by Mr. Kelly.
I think so.
And Mr. Runny.
And Mr. Runny. Now, we're not done yet. We got Grand Prix America, Heat 2 coming up. Watch Mike here. Or is that Dustin? That's Dustin. Watch what he does. He will probably cut the course. See if he goes all the way up.
I think we need to come down here.
So J. Michael Kelly has found his way back to the pit area in the U8. The Beacon Electric, after finishing wink, wink, nod, nod, second place to Dustin Eccles in Bucket List Racing, the U40. I guess that's as it should be. The Bucket List and Dustin Eccles with our top qualifier for the event. And look at this. Dustin says, I'll give you one more flyby, Guntersville. And he pulls his foot as soon as he crosses start finish. The predominantly orange Bucket List Racing, trimmed in black with a little bit of silver. Special thank you to all of our kids and adults, everybody who stepped out of the water for our little exhibition there we ran with those two boats. Appreciate it greatly. We're coming with Grand Prix America Heat 2. That's what's up next. We're going to check the schedule. I'm going to throw it back to Wyatt. We will find out exactly when that's going to happen, but I know it is coming very, very quick, so don't go away. We've got more racing. Going to get loud and proud on Lake Guntersville. Throw it back to Wyatt. Play us some tunes until we're ready to race.
Am I the only one that flew? Am I the only one that flew?
getting set for Grand Prix America Heat number 2, sponsored by Guntersville Electric Board, providing reliable, affordable electrical service for the community. Hydrofest is grateful for all the electrical support provided by the Guntersville Electric Board. Looking at our H1 Unlimited Hydroplane preliminary point standings after qualifying in Heats 1A and 1B, on top with 480 points, Corey Peabody in Beacon Plumbing. In second position, his teammate with 450 points, J. Michael Kelly, Beacon Electric. Third on the ladder in points, Andrew Tate with 370 in Goodman Real Estate. Fourth in points, the Turbinator with 330, driver Jimmy King in Griggs Presents Miss Ace Hardware. Fifth on the ladder, rookie Dylan Runney in Miss Home Street with 285. Sixth in points, your top qualifier for the Southern Cup, Dustin Eccles in Bucket List Racing with 269. Seventh in points, Jamie Nielsen, Legend Yacht Transport with 265, and Brent Hall was scored with 30 points in the 8th position in Boitano Homes. There are your point standings after qualifying, along with Heats 1A and 1B held earlier today here at the Southern Cup. Up next, GPA Heat 2, sponsored by Guntersville Electric Board. While we wait for the clock countdown, Wyatt, let's hear some music. Thank you, Wyatt. Well, Wyatt's music had to be tuned down as we now are 5 minutes and 20 seconds away from Grand Prix America Heat number 2, sponsored by the Guntersville Electric Board here at the Southern Cup. 5:10 away, approaching the 5-minute period in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. That is the 5-minute period for Grand Prix America Heat number 2. Boats are in the water. Expect those 468 cubic inch big block motors to crank up here in just a bit.
Going to have 4 very loud laps here on Lake Guntersville to close out the day, day 2 of the 2023 Lake Guntersville Hydrofest and the race for the Southern Cup. 4:30 until the start. Looking across, we got boats coming our way now. Grand Prix hydroplanes are pitted in the same pit area as our H1 Unlimited, so they are across the pond, if you will. Got a couple of them coming this way. Couple as in 1, 2, 3. I stepped away for just a moment. Jeff Ayler, are we expecting 4 or 5 in this particular heat?
I think we're probably looking at 4, but we'll see how they come out of the pit area as we're looking at the monitor, and tough to tell even with the monitor with the setting sun to the west here in northeast Alabama on this day number 2 of 3 of the Southern Cup, the Guntersville Lake Hydrofest. 3 minutes and 35 seconds until the start. GPA heat number 2, sponsored by Guntersville Electric Board. Brad will get a better ID when the boats come by the start-finish line buoy the first time. A 1 1/4 mile race course, 4 times around for Grand Prix America.
Well, your second boat, or it's going to be on the inside coming down, it's going to be Jeff Bernard in the reliable Diamond Tool. And I believe in that GP79, he is going to start in lane number 1. He's going to be tough to beat. The boat was awfully fast in that earlier heat.
Well, we got 3 hot ones. Brad, you're right. Reliable Diamond Tool right there on the inside with Jeff Bernard. Brandon Kennedy in the middle out of Newark, Delaware in the River City Printing. And on the outside, Bobby King in the Jack's Bar and Grill presents Sunbelt Rentals, Piper Wings, Hydrofish. We now are 2 minutes and 30 seconds until the start. 2:30 away for GPA heat number 2, brought to you by the Guntersville Electric Board.
We may not have quantity in this one, but boy, we've got some quality here. I got to think Jeff Bernard, if he can nail a start in this thing, we saw how fast he was on the outside. Oh, we got the hopper out there now, isn't it? Or was that just the sun? Yeah, you've got your 4th boat.
That is actually yes, Greg Hobb, thank you, Brad, in the Stettner Construction Group. They're getting support this weekend from the Guntersville Foodland Plus, so great to see Greg Hopp out here out of Lake Stevens, Washington. So right now it looks like we'll have a 4-boat Guntersville Electric Board, GPA heat number 2, Jeff Bernard in the dominant orange checkered flag effect reliable Diamond Tool, Brandon Kennedy in the red, white, and blue, River City Printing, Bobby King in the multicolored green, Jack's Bar and Grill presents Sunbelt Rentals, and the dominant yellow craft, Greg Hopp in Stettner Construction Group, the GP15. We are approaching the 1 minute period. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. 1 minute period has begun. This is not the start. Still 1 minute until we begin Guntersville Electric Board Grand Prix America heat number 2. And Brad, you said it perfectly. We got great quality out here in heat 2 with GPA. Bernard, no doubt the advantage on the inside, but with these new bigger turns, the outside, will it prevail?
We're about to find out, and if it does, it may help Bobby King. He's going to be on the far outside. He's going to wind that 88 up and really give it a run. We are inside, 25 seconds until our start. This should be loud, proud, and a good one. I don't know who's trailing the field up there, but somebody's going to try and come hard at the end, Jeff. Start our heat.
10 seconds away. That's Bernard trailing back. He's on the buoy row. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Mark. It appears to be a clean start. We're racing in Guntersville Electric Board heat number 2. King was right there at 000 at the start, but Bernard takes the lead on the buoy row and reliable Diamond Tool. I've got Bobby King in second, and Jack's Bar and Grill presents Sunbelt Rentals. It's all Bernard in front, but here comes King.
Yeah, here comes King on the outside. I think, Jeff, he was actually third running up the backstretch. I think Hopp stayed with him for a little bit, but Hopp just dropped out. You're down to a 3-boat heat, and it's King on the far outside who was running third. But Jeff Bernard is just running away with this one right now.
Bernard, your leader. King now in second. Brandon Kennedy in the 3rd spot, and I believe we lost Greg Hopp. Boy, Brad, that setting sun, we're a lap and a half in, 2.5 to go. It's clearly Bernard in front, Bobby King in second, and yes, that is Brandon Kennedy in the 3rd position, River City Printing. Greg Hopp dead in the water in Stettner Construction Group. We'll come down to complete lap number 2. We're halfway through it. It's all Jeff Bernard.
We saw Jeff run earlier, and he looked awfully fast on the outside. We asked if he could nail the start. He'd be tough to beat. Looks like that's going to be the case. Bernard is running away and hiding right now.
And now, boy, it looked like Bernard slowed. And he is slowing.
He has.
Bernard dead in the water. And here comes King. King takes over. Now Bernard is refired. So King in front. Jack's Bar and Grill presents Sunbelt Rentals. White flag displayed. 3 down. And 1 to go. Bernard refired Reliable Diamond Tool. And now he slows again, entering turn 1. Brandon Kennedy popped the lid momentarily on River City Printing in the 3rd position, but still running in turn number 1. Final turn, final lap. Guntersville Electric Board, GPA, heat number 2, your winner, Bobby King.
1 minute penalty on Bobby King. We do not know what for, but he's got a 1 minute penalty. It looks like Bernard's going to bring it home anyway, despite dropping down. He jumped the gun, Jeff.
Hey,
we
thank
just
you.
got it. Bobby King jumped the gun at the start. It's going to cost him a 1 minute penalty, and Jeff Bernard, despite going dead on the backstretch, looks like he's going to come home a winner.
Bernard wins it. And Brandon Kennedy will get 2nd place points in River City Printing.
Stay by.
Sorry.
So it looks like the winner of our Grand Prix America Heat number 2, presented by Guntersville Electric Board. I'm sorry, I know we had some question on that at one point. The Guntersville Electric Board, who presented our Grand Prix America Heat number 2. It looks like Jeff Bernard, who was running away with the heat from start to about halfway through, when all of a sudden up the backstretch the boat dropped down in the water. Bobby King was able to get past him in boat number 88. Looked like Mr. King was going to take the victory, and then we got word from the officials Bobby King in the 88 had jumped the gun. Jeff Bernard had refired. Bernard got himself into 2nd place, and that turned out to be 1st place. So far, really good day of racing for Bernard and that GP79.
And the sponsor, Jonathan Thompson, will be happy with Reliable Diamond Tool. And Brad, twice today I got a catch in the throat there. I apologize to the fans along the shoreline and watching at home via H1 Unlimited through YouTube. And first race of the year. We'll get some lozenges in there and try to get this thing cleared up for tomorrow.
We'll get it squared up. So, day 2 of 3 at the 2023 Lake Guntersville Hydrofest. The race for the Southern Cup is in the books. Before we sign off for this evening and this afternoon, let's take a look at our schedule for tomorrow morning. On the schedule right now at 8 a.m., the Hydrofest gates will open. Then between 8 and 9:30 tomorrow morning, we will have open testing for the Grand Prix America and H1 Unlimited hydroplanes. They will be on the water from 8 until 9:30, and then there's a bunch of arrows pointed all around. I think we're going down here to 9:30. It's going to be Marshall Precision Manufacturing Pro Light Heat 2B. That's going to come up at 9:30 after Grand Prix America and H1 Unlimited testing. Then at 10 o'clock, we'll have the Miss US U36 on the water. Mark Werber will take that vintage boat out there and get her on the run. Then at 10:30, it's Guntersville Waterboard Unlimited Heat 2A, followed at 11 o'clock by Randy Jones and Associates Pro Light Heat 3A. At 11:30, Marshall County Tourism Grand Prix Heat number 3. And then we'll take a break at 12 o'clock. And as we did today with one of our drivers, as we did with Brent Hall, we will have Corey Peabody up at start-finish line. He will be near the award stage, and we'll ask him some questions. And the best part is those questions get to come from you. So there is plenty more that comes after that in the day. The bottom line being at 5:30 tomorrow afternoon, we are scheduled for the Lake Guntersville Hydrofest Southern Cup Champion. The Southern Cup Championship is going to come your way at 5:30. It should be a barn burner. We've got boats that are very tight in points. We're going to have 5 H1 Unlimiteds on the front row of the final. For those of you listening on the H1 Unlimited YouTube channel, we are going live at 8 a.m. in the morning. So if you happen to be out there on the left coast, and I know there's a bunch of you listening and watching here that are, that's going to come at 6 a.m. Get the coffee pot going early. And we'll have boats on the water at 8 a.m. We'll sign off both from the public address system right now. We'll sign off also from H1 Unlimited and the YouTube channel. It was a great day of racing. We had good competition. We had lots of activity on and off the water. And the only thing we know for sure for day 3, and that's tomorrow, we're going to have more of the same. For Jeff Ayler, Mike Morissette, Tana Morissette, and myself, Brad Luce, this is Brad Luce saying so long from the start-finish line. We'll see you tomorrow morning at 8 a.m.